Hello, folks. This is your host, Tammy Turner, and you are now listening to the Tiara Talk Show. We bring you rare interviews with the makers of Disney magic. Whether they be singers, actors, Imagineers, animators, they've all made their mark on the Disney name. To find out more about the show and other episodes, head to our official website at www.thetiaratalkshow.com. Be sure to look below at the show notes in the Show More section for links to our Twitter and Facebook pages, including videos and websites mentioned in the following interview. Photos and audio clips that are featured in the show belong to their rightful owners and are used for educational purposes only. All guest opinions are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the opinions of the Tiara Talk Show or the host. The Tiara Talk Show is not associated with the Disney Company. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode, and from all of us here at the Tiara Talk Show, have a hoop-de-doo day. I'm excited to welcome this week's Tiara Talk Show guest, actress Cindy Sorenson, to the show. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi, Tammy. Thanks for having me on.
It's very exciting to have you on the show because we're going to be talking about a famous Disney attraction that premiered in 1986 at Disneyland and also in Disney World, and it closed within 10 years, and then is now being introduced to a new generation of audiences as of 2010 after the passing of Michael Jackson. Of course, I'm talking about the 3D space adventure Captain EO, starring Michael Jackson, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and produced by George Lucas. So those were the three biggest names of probably the 80s, and still to this day. And you got to play one of the pilots and navigators of Captain EO's ship, Odee, who is a two-headed alien with a sister in Idee, the other head.
Right.
So this was a huge project, so many famous names attached to the film. So I was wondering, what in the world were these auditions like for this project? They must have been hush-hush, and nobody knows, it's a secret.
Well, they were, because we had no idea. All we heard when I went for the audition is it was physical, and it was a music video. And there was nothing said, that Michael would be starring in it, or Francis directing it, or Lucas producing it. And so when I went in the audition, they were looking for, especially my character. I played a two-headed geek with my sidekick, another actress, Debbie Carrington, who I've known for years. And when I auditioned, they were looking for someone that was, of course, an actor, but also being able to work with another individual in a costume. And so they auditioned. When we did go for the audition, we had to audition with another partner. And we had to walk together. So it was like 3 feet. 3 feet that we had to walk. So it was my leg, her leg, and then our middle leg. And we had to kind of walk in sync. So it was difficult. And so luckily I did know her, and she was fabulous. And I knew exactly, because we've auditioned through the years together, and like I said, I know her style and everything. So yeah, we ended up getting it, and it was really amazing. When we got the job, then we found out that Michael was going to be starring in it, and Francis Ford Coppola was going to direct it, and George Lucas was going to produce it. And mind you, Debbie too, just got in the business. I was just getting going, and I thought, wow, this is the business. I land, like I said, the Avatar of the 80s movie that was extremely expensive. I think back then we were told, but it changed quite a few. There was like $3 million a minute. So I don't know actually now, what the cost was, because it's been so long ago. But we were very lucky. And the costume itself, Odee and Idee, the geeks, it was heavy, and it was technical too, because there was a lot of special effects. We had a rod that was going from both of our backs to support the costume itself, and because there was 2 heads and 3 legs, and 2 arms, and we pretty much had to carry that. And I'm 3'11", so is Debbie, and our weight size, I'm like 80 pounds, so you can imagine it was a pretty physical job. But knowing that we were working with Michael and Frances was directing at George Lucas, we didn't care. It was interesting. The first day, of reading, table reading, we went in, and I think we were all nervous. And so we went in, and Francis was just adorable. He went around and said hi to, all the cast, and there was just a small group at that time. We didn't have the dancers. It was just us that we were rehearsing with. And he went around and, introduced himself, and we introduced, and we sat and we waited for Michael. And so when Michael did come in, it was like a bright light hit. And we all look at each other, go, wow. And he came in, he was very sweet, and we always use the word painfully shy, because he was. He went around and introduced himself to all of us, because we were going to spend some months together, so we really kind of got to know him. And we read dialogue, at the table reading, and then we got to rehearse it. Frances wanted us to get up and rehearse and everything. Then Michael started warming up, and he was just sweet. He was just a sweet man, extremely gifted, shy, and just very talented. I remember, and I don't think Debbie remembers this story, but I vaguely remember a lot of these stories that happened. But one story I do remember is when Frances, Michael was, when it came to, there was the acting, it was like Michael had 2 personalities, because he was painfully shy, but then all of a sudden, when it came to the the dancing, he just lit up, and he was more confident, and he was more. He just let it go, and it was just great to watch that. The dancers and him, he was like he was in control. When it came to when we were acting, though, he was like shy, and so one day we weren't supposed to come in, Debbie and I, and Frances was, Michael was working that day, and I don't know who else was working, and Michael was a little shy, and they wanted to kind of get, his dialogue out of him, and Frances ended up calling Debbie and I, because Michael ended up becoming close with us and comfortable, that he goes, could the girls come in today? Because it was just great. He goes, maybe you'll get Michael lifted up, and get him going. And we did. We didn't even have to work that day. And Frances wanted us to come in. And I thought, how lucky. This is great. It was it was like a dream, Tammy, being able to work in that wonderful environment and that wonderful setting, and it was just great. It's great. Michael would, when we were on breaks, he would always invite us over to his motorhome. We all had trailers, and we'd visit with him, and he would ask personal questions, like, what's it like being little? And it was kind of neat, because, everybody asked him, what's it like being Michael? And we were able to give him something back. And so he was really comfortable chatting with us. And I remember, I tell people this story too, is when he would come up to us throughout the day, each and every other day, he would come up and say, oh, you know what, Barbara's coming on today at lunchtime, and I want you to meet her. And we're thinking, Barbra Streisand. And it's like these names of Liz Taylor. Yes, Elizabeth Taylor. So these are the people that we would have to come and visit, us while we were in rehearsal. And they were just wonderful. But he treated us like, a buddy. And it was just, very sweet, very sweet. Really great crew and cast. They worked hard, and we all enjoyed each other's company. And like I said, it's a moment I'll never forget, because I was very fortunate to be able to start my career on a 3D movie that was so famous and that will be, it'll be remembered from years on. I mean, just how lucky. Very amazing. And, I there are stories I probably could, tell that I somehow forget because after it's going on 30 years in, next year. So we started in, I think, the spring of 85. I could be wrong. It's been so many years ago. And then Captain EO came out in 86. So, it's just amazing how the years have gone by. I had ran into Michael. Matter of fact, I worked with him about 5 years later on a video, and it was neat to see him again. But I just have such, Tammy, fond memories of the whole ordeal. And working with Francis was such a joy.
It's amazing you got to spend so much time with them. That's like you said, 6 minutes of filming, and the film's only 12 minutes long. So originally, when you went in to read the script with the entire cast and crew, were there more scenes added and more lines for Odee and Idee?
Yes. Probably, from what I remember, Tammy, I think so. Francis, they might have added some. Mind you, this was months of work because not only we were in a spaceship, but there was so much special effects and everything was moving in the spaceship. And not only that, some days our costumes might have not been up to par, because, and the electronical stuff that was with our, I think our faces or, there was just so much special effects. And I think about today, there's no way they could afford a movie like that for as amount of money that that was put into Captain EO. I can't imagine, they couldn't do something like this.
That's like putting Tom Cruise into a Disney attraction.
Absolutely. It is. Absolutely.
Which I would not mind seeing.
I know. It was a huge budget film. So, and everybody had to work. I mean, you had every department that was working to make it a hit. And boy, it was. But we worked hard, and we were pretty excited when it premiered. And I remember going to the premiere that night. We had it, I think, at Disneyland, and they closed Disneyland for the evening. And I think Francis was there. I remember seeing him, and I think Michael was there too. And he brought some people, and it was so neat when it was all edited that. It came together. And because you don't often know, because you have to, there's so much editing, especially when you're working with special effects, what is going to look good, what is not, and especially with our costumes and everything. Oh, it was very technical, very technical.
What was your favorite scene in the film?
Wow. I always tell, here's another story, Tammy, that everybody, I always tell, is when, Michael was so shy, and when we were doing our scene and our dialogue, he was just kind of quiet, but saying his lines, darling, but shy, and it was like when the dance scene came up, and I remember the first time we sat and watched that in the big soundstage that we were in, and all of a sudden, Mike lit up. And we had beautiful dancers. I tell this to everybody. We had gorgeous men and women, and they were all decked out in these gorgeous costumes, and they're striking. But I'm telling you, is when Michael started dancing with his entire dance crew, you don't even look. I mean, he just lit up. He was like electrifying. And you look at him and thought, where did that come from? Because we were rehearsing. We rehearsed with him, Tammy, before. And so then when the dance scene started coming out a couple of weeks later, we're going, wow. And he caught your eye, and it was amazing. And I remember turning to Debbie and goes, wow. Such a gifted man. such a gifted dancer. And mind you, the dancers were gorgeous and they were perfection. So, you know, just and have him right there, your eyes are right, you know, glued right on him. I mean, you can't take it. He was just amazing to watch. You will have, I mean, generations to come will always, you know, enjoy watching it and be Michael Jackson fans. I love to see that. I took some pictures and he had these made for us. And, you know, he'd give us little gifts and everything. And I have this on my other business site now, and people love to look at that.
The film was one of the most expensive films ever made for its time, and it's only 12 minutes long. But were tensions ever high on the set because of this, you know, we have to get this film done within a certain amount of time?
You know, I think they moved it along pretty well. You know, I know that Francis' son was one of our camera guys, and he was great. He was really good. I don't, you know, it's been so long ago, I don't remember. It was a closed set, Tammy, and we, you know, the guests, you know, would have to have a sign-in to come in, you know, so it was a closed set. So Michael wanted it that way, and you know what, it worked out great because it was extremely hard movie to do, and Francis could tell you. I mean, we in those costumes were, I mean, mind you, a set, and then you were running around, but then you're in a costume, Tammy, and it could be like over 100 degrees, and it was hard. There was times I would just be like, you know, exhausted, and I think that may be the tension, you know, to answer what you were saying, that I would know. I don't remember, you know, stress at that time. I don't remember, you know, being that it was a high budget, that, you know, it seemed like they kept it, you know, pretty calm, you know, considering it was a high budget and there was a lot in stake. But I don't remember any tension. Or Francis was amazing because he, you know, his personality, he's not like up and down. He just handled, you know, especially with us, the cast. I thought he did a great job. He's such a great director, and he was great. He was absolutely great.
Did you get to attend when the film was re-released in 2010 in Disneyland? I know Tony got to. There was a video online about
and I think Debbie went too. I don't know. I didn't go, and there was a reason why I couldn't. And I know Debbie did an interview, you know, when she was there at Disneyland. I don't remember why I couldn't, but I wanted to go. I wanted to go, and I wasn't sure if they were going to do it for sure, you know, but I would have loved to go.
And I don't know if you've seen that on eBay. Most of the shirts and buttons and plushies of some of the creatures in the film are going for more than $50. It's unbelievable. So I'm glad I bought my Captain EO t-shirt when it was just $20 at the Disney parks.
Who would have thought, huh, Tammy? I mean, I had Idee and Odee doll. I don't know what I did with that.
Now, we haven't talked about Michael's other co-star, which was Angelica Houston, and she played the evil empress of the planet that Captain EO's crew lands on. So spider-like creature is the best way to describe her as a character. So that must have been a really hard outfit to get into. I'm just guessing.
It was. I remember, I have a story on that one too. I remember, you know, she watched us in the costumes, and we were actually in the costumes before she was, you know, in hers. And I remember her saying, "Oh boy, I give you guys," I don't know what she said, it was years ago, but like, "I give you a medal, because that is, now I, you know, understand what you guys go through." And yeah, she had to be on wires, and it was difficult. She was lovely. She was extremely talented, lovely lady. We all felt, you know, fortunate to be able to work with her, and sweet. She's a nice lady, really sweet lady, and very talented. But yeah, she had to be on those wires, and that was difficult. Another guy that I really enjoyed, who was on our team, is Dick Shawn. Love him. I remember Debbie and I, because he was so funny because he's a comic, and I just remember him making us laugh, and his one-liners, and we'd bust up. I thought he was so talented. Of course he was talented, but so much fun to work with. because mind you, we would spend hours, working on a set, and you needed, different individuals to kind of lift you up, and he was a hoot. Debbie and I would play off one another, and we were the giddies, mind you. How old was I? Maybe 22, 3? And we thought this was a carnival. I mean, seriously. We thought this was quite a party, and never wanted, how could I say, quit. The party lasts, and how many, almost 30 years later, that would be...
The party's still going.
A highlight. Yeah, a highlight of my career. And that, to this day, everyone goes, you were in Captain EO? You were in Captain EO? And yeah.
Now, did you get to keep any props or costumes from the set?
No, well, Idee and Odee was a huge costume, and that probably went back to the costume place. But I don't remember what we did keep. I mean, we had dolls, but they gave us those. I don't remember. We didn't have like costumes, Tammy. Because our furry costumes were, just all we had, and so that went back to our costume place. But other than that, we didn't really have other props. But I think what we really treasure the most, Tammy, is the stuff Michael gave us. I know Debbie got something from Michael. I don't quite remember, but she saved it. And just the pictures, we had pictures like I just showed you taken, and and it's a great shot of Michael, and he was so excited to give it to us. How nice.
So what's your next project? I know our listeners are going to want to see if they could check it out, the next movie or TV show.
Oh, well, you know what's interesting? About 3 years ago, I decided, because there isn't a lot of work anymore, and and my age, middle age, but there's a lot of reality shows, and and everything, and the business has changed a lot. But I had I've always had many different interests, what I want to do in my life as far as careers. So 3 years ago, I kind of got out of the business and worked with a custom cake decorator. And now I have my own business called The Bite Size Chef, and it's on Facebook. And I do custom elaborate cakes and cupcakes, and I do them for Disney. A lot of times the studios will call, and I do celebrities, I do everybody, as far as all over LA. And what's interesting, Tammy, when I was starting to get out of the business, I thought, I'm getting out, and I still have my manager, Laura, who I adore at Central Artists. I'm blessed that, people are finding my site, and I'm blessed that people are interested in, buying my stuff. Coming out, I grew up in Great Falls, Montana, Tammy, and I left right after high school to come to LA because my goal was to getting to the acting, and that was my dream for years. So I'm not sure my parents thought I was really going to pursue that. So right after high school, when my friends all went to college, I came to California. And I started, I lived with a family and was a nanny for a while, and then started auditioning, and who would have thought? And I stayed out here. I have a house in Burbank, and I'm married and have a 22-year-old son. Yeah, I've had a pretty good life.
It's such an amazing experience for someone to have, and I'm so glad and happy that we could talk about this. And I just want to I have a couple more questions. I usually call them the Fab 3 questions.
Okay.
There's some Disney questions, and they're called the Donald, Goofy, and Mickey questions. So we'll start with the Donald question, which is, as a child, what Disney film would you always like to watch over and over again?
Snow White. I loved it. Matter of fact, I got to tell you this one. When I think I was in 6th grade, they were doing it was a musical for school. They wanted me to play Snow White, and the dwarfs were taller. And it was, and I had to sing, which I could not sing, and I still to this day can't sing. Someday my prince will come. So my mother, who was a wonderful seamstress, put this little dress, Snow White dress together, and the dwarfs were taller, and we that was pretty hip little show because we had like prosthetics and everything. But yeah, that was my memory in 6th grade that I played Snow White.
And our goofy question, what Disney character do you think would be your best friend if you met them in person?
Oh my gosh. I'll be honest with you, I like Sleeping Beauty.
And our Mickey question, if I asked you to name any Disney song at this very moment, what immediately comes to mind?
Let it go, let it go. Totally.
It's been a wonderful time discussing this amazing experience that you've had filming Captain EO as Odee. And I'm so excited that we're going to be able to share this interview with everybody. And so just the best of luck with your bakery as well. Could you mention the name of it again so our listeners?
Yeah, it's called The Bite-Sized Chef. It's on Facebook. And I would love for people to come in and pop in. And I appreciate Tammy for thinking of me and giving me the opportunity to talk about Captain EO and the wonderful experience I had with Michael and Francis and the whole crew. It was just really a great experience, and I'll never forget.
Is this it, Odee?
We'll see.